you're no stranger to success. And now you're ready for more. An online graduate degree from ODU Global gives you the tools you need to take your career to the next level. Right now is a great time to get the boost you need for bigger things. Get started on your next degree with ODU Global today.
The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Late night is off to the writer's strike. The Late Bot said Netflix is cracking down on password sharing. It's like they want us to break up with our exes and our best friend and that cousin we only see at Thanksgiving. Netflix is getting serious about password sharing. They're implementing a new feature called the Awkward Family Zoom Call. Bert Kreischer, he's got a new movie. It's called The Machine, and the LA Times asked him, when did storytelling and drawing from real-life experiences develop in your stand-up? Bert said, I was so obsessed with comics who had their own voice and their own story, and they'd say something you could tell wasn't a scripted thing or something from the collective unconscious of stand-up. It was something so authentic, and I remember being jealous of it and then realizing I have those stories too. I just have to be brave enough to say them. It's really tough to follow your own voice and your own instinct. That's the struggle, really. Bert said, I wasn't someone who told my own stories. People told stories about me. I was the life of the party. The life of the party is never the one telling you he's the party. He's just the life of the party. And then someone's like, dude, did you hear what Bert did at the party last night? And then I'd be in the room going, oh yeah, it was crazy. And I could tell you the story, embellish it a little bit, and make it even funnier. But I was the guy that people told the story about. I wasn't the one telling the story about me. When I got into stand-up, it didn't feel natural to tell your own story about yourself. So probably the first 10 years of my career, I just wanted to learn how to tell a joke with a setup and a punchline. I thought that was the craft. Bert said, the first time I told The Machine, it was on Dr. Drew's Love Line. An old college classmate of mine called up and said, hey, why don't you tell the story about the time you robbed your friends on a train in Russia? And I was like, oh yeah? And that was like the most organic version of the story ever, because it was like I was in college again. I told it to Drew. He was blown away. He literally said, that's your story. That's your movie. I trimmed it and I tightened it. I told it on a couple morning radio shows and it was getting better every time. And I was like, oh, it's a good radio story. And then when I did Rogan, that was the game changer. I went on the show the first time and I was like, next time I come back, remind me to tell you the story about the time I got involved with the Russian mafia and robbed a train. Rogan was like, what? I came back the next week and he was like, you got to tell that story. So I told it and Rogan said, this is your story. This is your movie. Okay, Bert, really? Did two different people say, quote, this is your story, that's your movie? I suspect that's a little rehearsed. That one story changed my DNA as a stand-up. Like, I'm not even remotely recognizable to who I was 10 years ago. With that one story, I learned that the most valuable lesson about storytelling is once the story has an end, you're good. At first, I didn't have an end to the machine. I thought if I made the story funny in the middle, that's all I needed to do. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. I thought the end was the tagline, tonight you party with us. I was trying to punch it up, make it funny and edgy. One of the things people said a lot in Russia was they would remind you, this is Russia, you're in Russia. They would say that all the time. This isn't America, you're in Russia. I came up with the tagline after I asked the officer if I get in trouble with my teacher. He says to me, F that bitch, this is Russia. The light bulb went off like I finally had an end to that story. Bert Kreischer said, in 2019, I went to Legendary Studios and I pitched 3 things that weren't The Machine. The producer there goes, all right, I'll make it. And Bert says, which one? The producer says, I don't care. I just want to make a movie with you. I think it'll be fun. Which one do you want to make? Bert said, if you're telling me I can make whatever movie I want, it's not going to be the 3 I just pitched you. And he said, what are you going to make? And I said, The Machine. And he goes, I was wondering why you didn't pitch me that. I told him because I was so bored of pitching it. Best case scenario, it's a hit movie and I get kidnapped by the Russian mafia. The producer looks at me and goes, sold, that's our movie. It'll be like Godfather meets The Hangover. Tom Segura's new special Sledgehammer, July 4th. The Hollywood Reporter said, your whole family features prominently in the hour. To what extent do they have input? And Tom said, I mean, I don't check with them at all. Actually, I had a much harsher bit about my mom that I didn't do in the special. I was like, oh, I should do this when she's dead. Like, this is too mean. I remember I was doing it for a while on tour, and then she came to a show, and I skipped it at that show, and my sister was there, and I told my sister the bit, and she was like, oh my God, Mom would have died in the room. But my mom has seen me do the closing bit. Spoiler, it's about his mom getting high off edibles. And she came up to me after and goes, you're a piece of crap. That's what she said to me. But you know what? She still hung out. Segura says, yesterday I picked up my youngest. He's 4. We were driving and somebody cut me off and I go, idiot. And my son started laughing. He goes, you really are a comedian. And I go, what? And he's 4 years old. And he says, that was funny. You said that guy's an idiot. He loved it. And my 7-year-old saw me talk about him on Stephen Colbert and he was fascinated. And then he corrected something. He was like, I didn't say that. I said this. And I told him, I just said it to be funny. And he's like, yeah, but it didn't go like that. And I'm like, okay. Segura was asked to describe his fan base, and he said, it's usually like, oh, this guy kind of looks like me. Like if I'm at the airport and he has a beard and needs to lose 20 pounds, I'm like, oh, this guy's about to say something to me. He's going to be a fan. And they're usually dragging their women over to me. I wouldn't say the women are coming up to me left and right on their own, like, oh, I'm a huge fan. I mean, I have a few and I'm very lucky, but I don't know. It's always so much easier to talk about somebody else's act and somebody else's fan base because you just see it much more clearly. They asked Tom Segura, hey, do you look at your pal Bert Kreischer and think, I'd like to do that, meaning a movie? And Tom said, actually, I have something I can't tell you about just yet. I'll give you the scoop when the strike ends. The Hollywood reporter asked him, do you feel like Hollywood executives know what to do with you and your talent? Tom said, no, I don't think they do. And that's the reason this thing is happening, because I did it myself. I feel like I've been told in the past, oh, this is the process, and really BS is how I'd describe it. But a big part of it too, honestly, is that I've toured so aggressively that I just haven't been available. There were offers for cool things that came in, and I had to be like, I'm in Toronto doing shows. And they're like, well, that's when this show shoots. But this tour ending was kind of nice because I knew there was a break on the horizon to make this other stuff happen. And here's an interesting teaser. They said, does Brad Pitt have any idea how prominently he features in the special? And Tom said, no, he does not. Variety got a little political with Wanda Sykes and asked Wanda, do you think Trump will be nominated again? Wanda said, I don't see how. I mean, there are definitely pockets that he's going to dominate, but I don't see across the country how he'll get the nomination, right? Are we that bad? Is the country that horrible? Really? Variety pointed out he's polling higher than any other GOP candidate. Wanda said, well, I mean, they're awful. Biden will beat him again. Yep, I said it. Old man Biden will beat him again. They asked Wanda why she didn't talk about the slap. Again, Wanda was one of the presenters that night. Why she didn't talk about the slap in her special. And she said, I didn't really have any jokes for it. I think people were tired of it. And I figured it was Chris's face, so that's his material. She wishes Will Smith the best and says, I really hope he can come back. I really do. Did he reach out at all? Yes, he did. When he called, I had the worst throat cold. It wasn't COVID, but I was really sick. And I was like, hey, I appreciate you reaching out. When I feel better, I'll get in touch. But by then I was like, he called. I don't know what the call was for. I'm good. Would Wanda Sykes ever host the Oscars again? She says, no. I don't think so. I mean, it was fun, but solo, no thank you.
A go-getter like you never stops learning. ODU Global offers online undergraduate classes with around-the-clock support and individualized advising. We'll help you transfer your credits, finish your degree, and take your career to the next level. ODU Global, the boost you need for bigger things.
Do you love your Peloton?
Oh, I sure do.
Well, I know you do because you started a podcast about one. If you love your Peloton and can't get enough of it and all the news that goes along with it, you should check out our show. It's called The Clip Out. It's a great place to go for instructor news, new classes, motivational tips, corporate machination.
We don't just tell you the news, we also give you our thoughts on why things are happening. And each week we also interview a member of the Peloton community. Sometimes it's, somebody like me, just a regular person riding their bike.
Sometimes it's snooking.
You never know.
You never know.
The Clip Out is about anyone who loves their Peloton.
Every week we take you behind the scenes and inside the world of Peloton. The Clip Out is available wherever you get your podcasts or check out our website,
theclipout.com.
Larry Wilmore addressed the Harvard College class of 2023 and encouraged students to view success as a journey rather than a destination. He offered 3 pieces of pseudo-wisdom to the graduating seniors. These are phrases they can use in their lives. They are, it is what it is. Do what you got to do and play better. Larry says, it's for when you're just trying to take it to the next level, or you see some kind of improvement in your life, or you're just unsatisfied with where you're headed. Play better. John Cleese says the press has misrepresented him. He has denied reports that the Loretta scene is going to be cut from the stage version of Monty Python's Life of Brian for fear that it's transphobic. Last week, it was reported that the scene in which a male member of the People's Front of Judea said he wanted to become a woman, the rumor was that scene would be dropped. The report was based on Cleese receiving feedback from the actors at a run-through that the scene would be problematic, but John said he was merely repeating the concerns, but wouldn't act on them. He said on Twitter, a few days ago I spoke to an audience outside London. I told them I was adapting The Life of Brian so we could do it as a stage show, not a musical. I said we'd had a table reading of the latest draft in New York City a year ago, and all the actors, several of them Tony winners, had advised me strongly to cut the Loretta scene. I have, of course, no intention of doing so. So someone in the audience had called a journalist and misreported me. Amazingly, none of the British media called to check. The report also said he was cutting the crucifixion scene, but not the song Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. Cleese did not address the crucifixion report, but said the song would remain for very good reason. We don't want to upset Eric Idle, and it's his only contribution to the Life of Brian script. Seems like those two aren't getting along, Because Idle had suggested the song had been cut and tweeted, I have nothing at all to do with this production or adaptation. As for the Loretta scene, Cleese told the Daily Mail, so here you have something that's never had a complaint in 40 years that I've heard of, and now all of a sudden we can't do it because it'll offend people? What are you supposed to make of that? But I think there were a lot of things that were actually in some strange way predictive of what was actually going to happen later. In the original scene, Eric Idle plays Stan. He tells his fellow revolutionaries, I want to become a woman. From now on, I want you to call me Loretta. John Cleese's character says, what? Idle says, it's my right as a man. I want to have babies. It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them. Cleese's character, you can't have babies. Idle, don't you oppress me. Cleese, I'm not oppressing you. Stan, you haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You've got to keep it in a box. From The Guardian, they took a look at Comedy Unleashed, a, quote, rebellion against the safe tramline orthodoxy of the contemporary comedy circuit. Wow. It's a haven for free-thinking comedians who leave their self-censorship button at the door. Comedy Unleashed features some quote-unquote canceled figures, such as Andrew Lawrence and Gran Linehan. They're both playing tonight. The Guardian says the demand is there. 5 years in, the 300-seat theater regularly sells out. It's a monthly event. Co-founder Andy Shaw said, if somebody's canceled, we'll put them on principle. Let the audience decide if they're funny or not. Our red line is it funny? If people are constantly worried about the possibility of offending a single person in an audience, they'll never follow their art nor be funny. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Who doesn't like vacations? Do you need some inspiration for your next road trip? Are you excited to get out there and explore the world again? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac. My podcast is called Travel is Back. Travel is Back is travel for regular people. We hop in the car, we fly coach, we use our miles, we eat at normal places, we stay at normal places. So what I do is I hop in the car and I grab my portable recorder and I go somewhere. Season 3 kicks off with a road trip to Key West. You can check out the back catalog. There are popular episodes covering Chicago, Nashville, Vancouver, Seattle, a whole bunch more. Travel is Back, road trips for regular people. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your shows. These are quick, these are casual, and it's for regular people like you. Travel is Back.